nice to have a really big funnel. See it going right into the bucket there. Look at this beautiful red fluid. This is what you want your transmission fluid to look like, not that. Yeah, I just flushed the transmission fluid on a Toyota 4Runner with 245,000 miles. You're not supposed to do that. You'll never believe what happened. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, I dropped the plug. Where's the plug? This is my third transmission flush in this manner. The first two performed on my two Suburbans, but there is one glaring difference. The mileage. When I flushed the 95 GMC Suburban, it had well under 100,000 miles. And when I flushed the 03 Suburban, which you see behind me, I think it also had under 100,000 miles. This Toyota 4Runner here though, 245,000 miles. What could go wrong? I don't know how many times I've heard not to touch old transmission fluid because apparently the debris in that fluid is what's keeping it working. I mean, it makes sense, and you definitely should not do what I'm doing here today. A transmission fluid flush with this kind of mileage is definitely not recommended. Look it up. I, however, can't leave well enough alone. Things like this old crusty transmission fluid make me lose sleep at night. I can't just leave it. Well, to start, you need to know I was having zero issues with the transmission in this 4Runner. Like none. So on one hand, if this transmission is in really good shape, getting this old crusty fluid out and fresh fluid in should help it to last longer, maybe. But on the other hand, if this transmission is trash, it could be that the only thing holding it together is that old crusty fluid. And flushing it out could be the straw that broke the camel's back. More on that later. Well, to get started, I had to locate the send and return lines from the transmission to the cooling system, the coolers. And this was a bit tricky because this is a limited model 4x4 and it has two transmission coolers. It has the standard one located in the radiator on the side of it, and then it's also got an external cooler that's located just in front of the AC condenser. Through a bit of trial and error, I was able to decipher which was which. We have two lines, two hard lines, connect to the transmission. This is the bottom one on the transmission. So I'm not sure if this bottom line, hard line here, is the pressure line, like feeding the fluid to the coolers, or if this is the actual return line. Well, here's my setup. You can see the hard line here coming from the transmission has a clear vinyl line attached to it, and that vinyl line comes down and is clamped on right here with a pair of vice grips down into my drain bucket. Now this rubber line that was attached to that hard line that's coming from the cooler in the radiator also has a clear vinyl line attached to it. So if I start this thing and we get fluid from the thicker line, which is attached to the hard line coming from the transmission, we know that that hard line is the supply line or the pressure side of the line. Oh, all right. I think we have a result. The bottom hard line coming out of the transmission is the send. After I figured that out, I traced the lines to find the absolute last point in the system before it then returned back to the transmission. And that last point was the very top port of the external transmission cooler. The first place that supply line goes is this top cooler port on the side of the radiator. From the bottom of that transmission cooler on the radiator, the line comes over here and it comes out on the driver's side here on the bottom. So you can see this bottom line down here that goes to the bottom of this external transmission cooler, then flows through this cooler up through the top, and this ultimately returns back to the transmission. So I know I can simply detach this line, hook up a clear vinyl line to this port here, and run the engine, and all of the old fluid should be pumped right out of this line. And that line I disconnected is now reconnected. Grab that hose clamp. Hose clamp first. Hopefully we can tighten this down enough to seal it. I think we'll be good there. Now I want the flush to take place at this point. This would ensure that all of the old fluid out of the transmission, out of both coolers, is being pumped out. And there we have the end of the line for the transmission fluid. It's now going to come out my vinyl hose here, and it'll empty straight down into my bucket, which, by the way, I poured the fluid in that we already drained out. And this bucket also has measurement markings on it, so each one of these lines is a quart. Next, I found the fill port on the transmission and removed the plug. Thankfully, it was easy. Oh, wow. That was very, very simple. Here is that fill plug. You can see it does have an O-ring on it. And on the face of this fill plug, which is a 24 millimeter, it does say WS, which I believe stands for World Standard, which is their type of fluid that Toyota wants you to use. I then ran a funnel with another clear vinyl tube down to that fill port, trying to keep it away from the exhaust. So now hopefully you're getting a sense for the master plan here. I have the last possible outlet, which is the top of that external transmission cooler. That way, as much of the old fluid as possible is captured into this bucket. The plan is to do this in about 2-quart increments. Every line here is a quart. So if I can fill this bucket to about this point here, I can shut it down and then pour out 2 quarts back into the transmission. Okay, we're rolling. There's fluid being pumped out. There we go. Okay, we're at about 1 quart. It's going, no bubbles yet. Okay, we're there about 2 quarts. I'm gonna shut her down. My heart is pounding. That was successful. We didn't see any bubbles. I mean, we do now that everything's shut down, but everything went really smoothly. And we hit the half point here for half gallon, which is about 2 quarts. Now this is the point where I'm gonna refill this transmission with approximately the same amount of fluid we just took out. This is Valvoline Max Life ATF, and according to the back here and some other sources I found online, this is compliant with the Toyota World Standard. It's nice to have a really big funnel. This way you can get a lot of fluid in there and not spill any. And this is exactly why we're doing this. You can see how dark this current fluid is. It may very well be the original fluid from 2005 with, over 240,000 miles on it. So I really wanted to get as much of this out as possible. And that's it. I'm going to continue this process until I see red fluid pumping out through that vinyl line. All right, phase 2. Okay, we are getting solid flowage. Refill. All right, everything is pumping. You can see it going right into the bucket there. Hey, I think I can tell that the fluid's starting to get a little more red and less dark. We're gonna hit this 2-gallon mark. We're right at that 2-gallon point, and I can tell that the fluid is starting to look more red. Well, since I have no more measurable capacity here, I'm gonna empty all that old fluid into this drain pan. Now I'll continue the process and still be able to measure. Time to refill 2 more quarts. All right, another round. We've just refilled 2 more quarts. We're pumping. Everything's going good. The fluid is definitely turning more red. We're gonna get right up to that half-gallon point. Well, hopefully you're able to see the difference in color on this fluid. It is definitely looking a lot more like what it should look like, cherry red, and we're gonna keep going. All right, and look at that fluid, how red that is. That's what we wanna see. So we're going to the 1-gallon point. Very, very nice looking fluid there. No bubbles as it's pumping. This is good. All right, we can absolutely see a difference here. This fluid is now cherry red and looks fantastic. Do I do another round just for the heck of it? I have 1 more quart in here, bottle of brand new fluid. I might as well pour it in and just empty out another quart. This is our last round here. We're only pumping out 1 quart. So we're gonna go from this 1 point where it's at now up to 1 1/4 right there. We're gonna shut it down. All right. Look at this beautiful red fluid. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. This is what you want your transmission fluid to look like. Not that. So in total, we have 2 gallons that we pumped out, plus another 1.25 gallons. So 3 1/4 gallons of transmission fluid. I feel like this 2-quart interval was perfect. It was long enough to be controlled, but short enough that I didn't run the sump dry in the transmission. Before long, the fluid was cherry red, which meant I was done. But I needed to make sure I ended the process on a refill. Otherwise, I'd be short fluid. And that's kind of exactly what happened. I somehow, through my calculations, was a quart low from what I originally started with. I think what threw me off was the last pump out and refill was only 1 quart. and I somehow got lost during all of that. Now that the flushing was done, I reconnected the factory line to the top of that external cooler. Now, during the very peculiar fluid level check procedure, in which you use a jumper wire in the OBD2 port and then shift the transmission from neutral to drive over and over for... Anyway, you can look that part up. I removed the level check plug from the pan, and that's when I confirmed my suspicion that I was indeed a quart low. And even after I added that quart, I rechecked it, pulled that check plug again, only to find out that I was still low, about a half quart. And I'm pretty sure that this is from when I changed the radiator out not too long ago. Thankfully, all was figured out, but not without a small scare when I dropped the check plug into the drain pan and couldn't find it. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, I dropped the plug. Where's the plug? Well, I'm done. Everything is put back together, and it's time to find out if this transmission still works. All right. Nice shift. Nice shift. Nice shift. So far, guys, and this is very, very preliminary, just took off. I wasn't floored or anything, but you know, it was a spirited takeoff. There was a car coming up behind me, so I had to go. And everything is shifting perfectly smoothly. This 4Runner right now is sitting at 245,443 miles. So for a transmission with that many miles on it, now I don't know if the fluid has ever been flushed before. I hope it has, but by the way that it looked, it was probably the original fluid. I'm gonna turn off of the highway here so we can do a little slower driving and hopefully more shifting through the gears in the transmission. Everything feels very, very smooth. No hard shifting, no slipping, full power. This Toyota drives like a brand new vehicle. And this transmission so far drives like a brand new transmission. I am shocked with just how good these, well, I'll say this Toyota is. I know that everybody talks about Toyotas lasting forever. This is my first Toyota, and it was in decently rough shape when I got it. And you know, after all of the different repairs and things that I've made to it, how it drives now is phenomenal to me. Yes, it still works great actually. For a vehicle with 245,000 miles, this transmission works fantastic. Can you believe it? A transmission fluid flush on a vehicle with 245,000 miles and everything still works. Well done, Toyota. Well done. Hey, have you done something similar to this with your car? What were your results? Let us know down in the comments below. And if you just so happen to enjoy this video, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up. It really helps this video and the channel. And if you've watched this far and you're not a subscriber to the channel, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? I'm Jimmy with One Road, and I will see you in the next one.